So I screwed up. That's right, I screwed up. Remember that video I made about making sure that your refrigerator vent covers were secured, and I used screws to attach them? The good news is that my fix worked and my fridge vent stayed put all of this time. The bad news is there's actually 2 refrigerator vents and I'd only replaced one of them. And at the campground I noticed that this top vent had blown off and was gone forever. And apparently they don't make these anymore, so you just can't go buy one. So I did what most people do during the trip, is I fashioned something from the hardware store. As you can see, it's rusting and you probably cut yourself on it, and so I've got to replace it. Scratch the RV at the same time. And you can see this was just made out of something you buy at the hardware store. Cut it with some tin snips that I bought there, and yeah, it worked. Not pretty, but it worked. And while this was a good idea, it saved us in a pinch and was functional for several months on the RV. With the rust and everything, it's not a pretty fix. Definitely temporary. I'm going to use this Dometic refrigerator vent cover for RVs that I bought off of Amazon, and I will link that in the description below. Okay, just to kind of test fit it. It's got these little nubs right here. I don't know if you can see that right here, and those seem to be rubbing, so I may Dremel those down, but I can sort of force it to fit, so that's not too bad. It's not exactly perfect around the sides, but I think this is going to work. Besides, I'm going to put this one up there, and so it won't be quite as visible. So I ended up basically cutting those nubs completely off, and I think that's going to do it. The question is, how many screws? Thinking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that thing's not going anywhere unless this piece blows out. Oh my goodness. It's not one thing, it's 2. So one thing to note is you won't be able to drive screws in to the top edge of the vent cover because the awning is in the way at the top. I'm going to pre-drill the holes. Okay, so this is basically identical to the one that I lost, and that little tab gets broken and then boom, they fly off. Not a great design. Okay, so pre-drilled the holes, and now put the screws in. See what it looks like. Now to put the original vent back. And I've noticed from the original video that just 2 screws really isn't good enough, because it begins to bow. It's nice and tight in the middle, and then the edges start to go. So I think I'm going to add a couple more screws to this.
okay. Now that is not going anywhere.
So yeah, I made a mistake. I could have just opened the awning all the way up to get screws in the top edge of the vent cover. Duh. By the way, if you've not secured these vents yet with some screws, then you're just fooling yourself, because it's just going to be a matter of time for those little tabs to break and for the vent cover to actually blow off. So I don't know, from a distance it doesn't look too bad. I mean, this is the vent that was lost, and here's the replacement. Sure, they're different, but you know, it's far enough apart where visually it's not all that distracting when you look at the RV. I would call it a success.